made it back from Europe, safe and sound.
And we figured we'd put it together a couple tips for first-time visitors to Europe. This was our first trip to Europe, and there was a lot that we learned. And for those that haven't gone yet and are planning a trip to Europe, we thought a couple little tips may help you along the way.
One important thing, it was very noisy on the plane. So you want to make sure that you don't forget noise-canceling headphones. You will thank yourselves that you brought them.
Yeah, I don't know why it was so noisy. It was an Airbus A333, but it was noisy. We walked up and down the cabin. Wherever you sat, it was noisy. It was so noisy you couldn't even have a normal conversation during the flight.
You also want to notify your bank and credit card company before you go, so they know exactly where you are.
Yeah, make sure you tell them what towns you're going to be in, because you don't want to get there and have your debit card denied or your credit card denied. So make sure you tell them before you go exactly where you're going to be. And while on that subject, we did the whole trip using our credit card and our debit card. We didn't take any cash or euros before we left the U.S. What we did is we went to the ATMs, took out maybe $50 to $100, which for miscellaneous expenses. Otherwise, we used our credit card, and our credit card was accepted everywhere.
Yeah.
We went to dinner, went to the shops, bought things. Most times, the credit card was not a problem. And remember, when you go to pay the bill, make sure that you let it go through in the local currency. Don't let the card swipe change it back to U.S. because it's more expensive that way.
And you want to bring a change purse, because when you get change back, the dollars, $2 and $5 are in coins. So you definitely need to have something to hold everything in.
Yep, there are no $1 bills. Lots of coins. The Europeans love their coins, so bring a change purse. Oh yeah, and a couple of quick comments about the ATM. We used our U.S. debit card in Frankfurt, Salzburg, and in Zurich, and there was no problem at all. The instructions on the ATM were in English. It was very easy to use. But one tip is, if you use an ATM, make sure you use one that's associated with a bank, because if you use a freestanding ATM that's not associated with the bank, sometimes the charges can be much higher. But when we were in Salzburg, a funny thing happened to us while we were inside the ATM on a weekend when the bank was closed.
We actually got locked in for a few minutes. There was a big red.
I think it was probably like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
We're locked in the ATM.
There was a big red arrow on the wall, and I was like, "All right, press it. That'll get us out." And you were like, "No, that's an emergency."
I figured a big red arrow with a big red X means, oh, this is an emergency. Maybe you need the police officer to come or something. You're being robbed, but. We found out.
Yeah, we finally figured out that you just press that red arrow and that will open up the door.
Right. So
and that was in Salzburg. So just keep that in mind if you go to an indoor ATM and you see a big red arrow on the wall, hit it to get out.
That's how you get out. So it was kind of funny, and we're waving to people as we're walking by, and they just kept going along. And but finally we figured out. We figured, well, we'll hit the red arrow and see what happens. And the door opened up, and we could get out.
Yep.
Yeah, that was good.
It was funny. Not so funny when we were locked in, but
funny afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Hostesses don't seat you when you go to a restaurant. You see a table and you head right for it.
Right. There's no seating. There's no hostess up there for you. Just see a table, go into the restaurant, sit down, and then they'll come to you.
And there's always menus in English. Have no fear. When you walk in, they hear you speaking American. They will give you an English menu, no problem, and they all speak English perfectly.
Yeah, they can tell that you're from the U.S. Maybe it's the white sneakers that sets the stage, and they can tell. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's our mannerisms. But as soon as we walked in, they handed us an English menu because they knew we're from the U.S.
Water at the restaurants are always by bottle, so you'll never get tap water. They just don't do that.
Yeah, and they'll also ask you, do you want bubbles or no bubbles, but no tap water.
For breakfast, it's usually like baked goods, cold cuts, pastries. They do have a few eggs here and there, and maybe some cereal, but it's mostly sandwiches and things like that, and cheeses.
Yep, it was very good. And at the end of your meal, what's interesting is when they present you with the bill, they'll stand there, and you have to pay right there. They don't give you the bill and then walk away. They actually stand next to you until you actually take out your credit card or cash and pay. So you pay up front right when the bill is presented.
And most of the little hotels don't have air conditioning, they have fans. Some of maybe the bigger chains probably have air conditioning, but just keep that in mind, when you book your hotel. And you want to make sure that the bathrooms are connected to the room, because some of the real old hotels don't have that.
Right. And then getting back to dinner, the price of the meal includes the tax, and there's no tipping that's required. You can leave a couple euros or round up, but you don't have to leave the 15-20% tip that we do in the U.S. So when you look at the menu, you might say, wow, this is expensive, but remember, you're not adding a 20% tip. And that was especially true in Zurich. Zurich is an expensive city, there's no doubt about it. But when you go out to eat, if you factor in the point that you're not going to be given a 20% tip, the price of the meal came out actually very similar to what we pay over here. It really wasn't that bad. It wasn't as expensive as people make it out to be.
And don't be worried about the trains. The train station, they have English, and they have a kiosk, and they have a train office that you can go and get your tickets. So don't be afraid about it. Everything, the schedules are written clearly in English, so it's not a big issue. But importantly, you definitely want to be quiet on the train. Nobody really talks.
Yeah, it was very interesting on the bus, the train, even in sitting in like a waiting room at the train station. Everybody is quiet. It's not the chatter that you might hear in the U.S. when people are on a train or a bus. It's actually really quiet. So just remember that when you go, not to be too loud when you're on the train or the bus.
And I think that's it. Those are pretty much the tips that we came up with.
Yeah,
hope it's helpful.
Yeah, I think that is. Yeah, that's about the most important ones that we came across. Now, if you, the viewers out there, have any additional tips that you'd like to let other people know about for your travels to Europe, feel free to put a comment below and leave any additional information that maybe we missed or information that you came across during your travels. So we hope this is helpful, and we'll be taking more trips in the near future. And of course, if you subscribe and hit that bell, you'll be the first to know when we put up a new video. Anything else you want to say?
No.
No, that's it?
That's
okay.
it.
All right. Well, until next time, safe travels.